lovely and darling viewers, it's Jen here at Chuck Her Joy. This time I'm reviewing Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Jill Mansell. This is a contemporary romance slash British chick lit novel that focuses on Dexter, who is this playboy kind of character who ends up having to take care of his 8-month-old niece when his sister dies. I listened to the audiobook for this, which is read by Alison Larkin. And sorry if there are any weird noises in this video, because I had to change filming locations because filming right in front of a front window that faces out on the street that they're currently doing road work on didn't seem like a great idea. Also, there's my kitty as a bonus because he's just snoozing away listening to my voice. He's so cute. Finally calm down. Being 20 is really hard on him. Back to the book. So, Don't Want to Miss a Thing focuses on Dexter Yates. At the start of the book, he has this lavish bachelor London life. He has this finance job where he's making tons of money. He can do whatever he wants. He has this really spectacular apartment with a gorgeous view. He is dating a new woman like every night, basically. So many women that he doesn't remember all their names. Just living it up. He's got the fancy stuff, leather couches, really fancy sharp furniture, which becomes a problem when his sister dies and he is left in charge of his 8-month-old niece, Daphne. So the London apartment isn't really easy to baby-proof. He was going to have to replace basically all the furniture he owns. So that combined with his being out every night didn't really seem like a great plan. The foster care system in London is kind of urging him to just put the baby up for adoption, even though he's the one listed in the will as the next legal guardian. So, and Dexter is absolutely in love with his niece at first sight. The first moment they meet, he adores her. She's got her little finger wrapped around his, and they're inseparable. So he can't imagine just giving her up and letting somebody else take care of her. So, in order to appease the child care workers, he decides to really settle down and change his life around. So he moves to this small town in the countryside called Briarwood, and he buys his house there and gives up the London apartment and the London job and just takes care of her in this new environment. So the two of them need to navigate small town life for the first time, and Dexter needs to give up his dating a new girl every weekend kind of thing. And really settle down and do what's best for Daphne. So to see his entire life change is kind of funny. This is a romantic comedy, basically. A lot of things that happen to Dexter are ridiculous, and I love them. I love watching him try to, put Daphne first. She's an adorable baby. Listening to the audiobook, though, some of her, some of her baby talk was really high-pitched, and that kind of got annoying and grating a little bit. So as long as Daphne wasn't doing too much gibbering, we were okay. So it is a romance. The center relationship in this focuses on Dexter and his next-door neighbor, Molly. And even from the moment they first meet, there's definitely some chemistry and some sparks, and they definitely share some moments together. So the first time they meet, Molly just hacks a fish over the fence, and it lands in Dexter's backyard and hits his then girlfriend. To which the posh London girl screams and freaks out because she's been touched by a fish. And Molly politely invites them into her house and explains that she wasn't expecting anybody to be next door. The house hadn't sold. It hadn't sold in a while. The real estate agent had just left. She didn't want to attract animals into her yard. She just needed to get rid of the fish. That was a gift from an ex-boyfriend. And just everything about it was icky. The type of fish it was, it was starting to smell. She didn't want to keep it because of the boyfriend. So she just wanted it out of her house. And so she flung it. And it just happened to, unfortunately, hit another woman. So the two of them start talking and they have this gorgeous moment. And Dexter does end up buying the house. When he and Daphne do eventually move in next door, he and Molly get to know each other better. They have a lot of late nights. Molly introduces him around town. She gives him a lot of advice for taking care of the baby. And it's just, they have such a cute relationship, and they definitely have chemistry, and it's adorable. But Dexter does have a reputation as the playboy who is always seeing other women and not serious. So when he decides to act on his feelings and ask Molly out, she refuses him because of his relationship. And so the rest of the book is them trying to date other people while also dealing with the fact that they kind of like each other but aren't going to be good for each other, so they need to get over it. Other parts about Molly is that she is a comic strip artist, so she draws the comic strips that appear in newspapers, and they're syndicated nationally, so she's making a fair bit of money. It's not a ton though, so she's also teaching art classes at night, and helping out at the cafe where her best friend Frankie works. And she's also a mentor to Frankie's daughter Amber, who is one of her students and is learning art, but also just like the cool aunt kind of figure, even though they're best. The mom's best friend is the aunt kind of relationship there. So the small town is also populated by a wide assortment of characters with tons of quirky aspects to them. It's one of my favorite parts of Jill Mansell's novels is that she has like a main romance, but then there are also tons and tons of side relationships and different stories and like such different age ranges. So there'll be like teenagers who are dealing with relationships and like elderly people who are dealing with relationships and deciding whether or not it's even worth it. So I love all the characters she populates her books with. And this book is no different. Other characters in this book include Frankie, who owns the coffee shop. So it's actually the scene of this. So Frankie and her husband actually bought this house that was the set of this television show that had been madly popular. It only got on like a couple seasons, but like everybody watched it at the time, until one of its leads ended up dying. Just not in the show, but like a car crash happening, and it just affected the show. They couldn't really carry on without him. So they've left, the show's left, and Frankie ended up buying the house, and she has, part of the plot of the show was that there was a coffee shop in there, and so Frankie decides to keep the bottom of the coffee shop, keep the bottom of their place as a coffee shop, and so there's a coffee shop at the bottom, and then they live upstairs and like have their house up there. So they have the coffee shop, they set it up so it looks exactly like the show. There is tons of memorabilia from the show, clothes that were in it. So like there's things that the actors used in the show. There are pictures that Frankie took of them filming. There are pictures of the actual show, behind the scenes stuff, just like a tourist attraction centered around the show. And so it gets these tourists, so it gets their fans coming by and stopping by and just enjoying the show. One of the people who shows up is actually one of the former stars, Hope, who was the female lead, who basically left acting after her co-star died and the show stopped filming. And so she's disappeared and nobody knows what happened to her. And so Frankie earns her trust and the two of them start talking. And Frankie discovers what she's been up to, about this long lost love she had, and trying to like help Hope track down the guy again. And I love it. Hope's also an older character. She's one of those people. Hope's also an older character. I think she's described as not being that old, but also looking much older than she is. So she feels like nobody will love her anyway. So we have Hope's relationship. We have Frankie's marriage, which is also hitting the rocks and potentially falling apart. We have their teenage daughter, Amber, and she's dating this guy that is basically taking advantage of her. She goes out and does babysitting, and then she ends up paying for all their meals and stuff, and he's spending Amber's money on booze, which she doesn't mind, but also she kind of wishes he would go out and just do his own thing and not have to get high all the time. So their relationship is not great. There is also a new boy who shows up at the art classes, Sean, who immediately, like the two of them have a connection, and Amber starts trying to figure out who he is and why he showed up for one class and then stopped coming. All the teenagers. So we have Lois, who's probably in her 40s. She owns the local pub, and her entire life she has been just gathered attention because she's gorgeous and pretty, and so she plays up the sex aspect because it's a pub. Guys start spending money trying to get her to talk to them, and she's totally on board with this, except that everybody just assumes that she's easy, and it makes dating hard for her. So it's just her and her daughter, and then her grandfather lives nearby, or her father lives nearby, the grandfather. But she doesn't have a husband or a boyfriend or anything, and so she's feeling lonely. But she's also an over-the-top character that I just enjoyed seeing. We have Stefan, who is Lois'S father, who is a gypsy, and he has taken a gardening job for one of the houses in town and parked his caravan, and just seeing him as a character is fun. Seeing a gypsy, it's also, like, there are gypsies and Romany characters in a lot of British books that I read, but they're not always well integrated into the town. They're usually ostracized or keep to themselves and have, like, their own community off to the side. So to see one, like, living in the community and being a part of it, but also still having his space and doing his thing and being in nature, with just his caravan, is also really fun, because he's sticking around for the granddaughter and the daughter. So I loved meeting Stefan and seeing him. We also have Henry, who is Dexter's best friend from London. So they used to work at the same company before Dexter leaves, and the two of them are still friends, and Henry's trying to figure out why Dexter loves the small town life so much. Henry is also he's described as Afro-Caribbean, so like black Caribbean character. So he's got a different background to him, which I enjoyed. He's also this really tall presence, like he's tall and big, and he's described as looking like Idris Elba, and so I love the visual of Henry. So I loved Henry and him and Dexter's relationship, and Henry coming into the small town and meeting everybody. There is also Muriel and her grandson Vince that end up in the picture where Molly does a party where she's drawing caricatures at Muriel's, I think, like 90th birthday party or something. Like, she's the matriarch of this family. She is rich and she has a large family, and she's throwing this lavish party. She is such a fun character. She just, like, takes over everything, and she wants to be in everybody's business, and she tries to set Vince up with Molly, but Vince is such, like, a straight, narrow, kind of boring character, but, like, he doesn't see that he's boring. Like, he's into the things he's into, and he doesn't get why everybody else isn't also into them. So I loved Vince. Yeah, he was an interesting character. Molly is, like, he seems perfect on paper, but, like, there's no chemistry. That was great. We also have Dr. Amanda. I think it's Cox is her last name. But Amanda is one of the town physicians. She starts off being Daphne's doctor, except she and Dexter start dating, so she ends up not being Daphne's doctor anymore. But she's like a pediatrician, and so she just loves kids, and she's so excited to, like, see Daphne, and, like, really steps into, like, being this mother figure for her. And Dexter's like, we have chemistry, this is great sex, but, you know, and then there's the whole relationship with Dexter where, like, they're dating, and it's great for a while, but maybe, you know, still kind of likes Molly. That's the whole point of the book. But I loved Amanda being, like, this very strong, very independent, very self-assured character. She's got a doctorate. She knows what she's doing. She's really smart, and just trying to find the perfect guy in a small town. Trying to find somebody who matches her personality. So there's the cast of characters to Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Jill Mansell. Her stories tend to have this very winding pattern to them. It's very much just, here is life and what is happening and all its craziness, and there's good and there's bad happening, and there are a lot of characters that know each other and they intertwine. There are rumors circulating around town, you know, and, like, characters talk to each other about each other and progress the plot that way, and it's very stream of consciousness. You never quite know which character is going to show up next or which storyline we're going to start following for a bit, but always circling back and retouching on those older storylines too. Like, we do get to see how everybody's life turns out in this period of time. I did tell you they were doing road work, right? Yeah, so there's my review for Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Jill Mansell. Ended up giving it 4 stars, I'm pretty sure, out of 5. Let me know in the comments below if you have read this, what you thought of it, if you've read any of her other books, or if you've read other books that you think I would also enjoy. And I will post links to other books of hers that I have read, because I've read quite a few of them by now. So, peace out, I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye!